Yesterday, we saw another tense day of confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. Senator Lindsey Graham got particularly heated when grilling Judge Brown Jackson, not on her credentials or past decisions, but about the 2018 confirmation hearing of Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Let's watch that.
You were here for Kavanaugh. If she's confused about what happened, some people on the other side had an accusation against Judge Kavanaugh that during high school, he sexually assaulted somebody. And the rest is history. That was known to the people on the other side and never revealed during the meetings they had with Judge Kavanaugh. It was literally ambushed. He was ambushed. How would you feel if we did that to you?
Senator, I've appreciated the kindness that each of you has shown me to see me in your offices, to talk with me about my approach.
But my question is, what if during our 15-minute exchange, it was very pleasant. You're a very nice person. You have a lot to be proud of. I would never do that to you. If I had some information that's sketchy at best, that somehow you've done something wrong, I promise you, just from human decency, I would share it with you. I would not disclose it at the last minute of the last day of the hearing, and I've already given it to a newspaper so the whole country can read about it before you ever said a word.
Senator, she's had nothing to do with the cause.
No, but I'm asking her about how she may feel about what y'all did.
I think if Republicans had some kind of information like that, they would absolutely.
They'd give it to me.
They'd give it to you, yeah. Well, so on the and I don't like. Brown Jackson had nothing to do with that.
No.
So it's very weird to grill her about it. That said, and I think you and I maybe disagree on this based on the earlier half conversation we have. I do agree that the treatment. I agree broadly with the right that the treatment of Kavanaugh was not great, and it was a very difficult situation. And I don't know. And I'm broadly against sort of resurfacing decades-old accusations that cannot really be, because of the time ago, cannot really be adjudicated. There's no evidence. There's nothing we can really do with them, and except kind of smear people or try to tarnish them. Look, obviously it was a weird situation because this is a very important position, the Supreme Court, and there's only 9 people going to sit on it. But it did strike me as like an 11th hour attempt to destroy someone that, well, like, what can we do? Like, that can happen to anyone, and there's no, like, we don't have a time machine. We can't, I'm not saying she was lying about it, but I wasn't saying, like, how do you set, there's just no way to go about this.
I actually think you're right that they didn't handle it well. I think Christine Blasey Ford's allegation should have been aired at the beginning, and she was willing to come forward in the beginning, and she was kind of pushed by Feinstein and the staff to not come forward. And it shouldn't have been left to the media to suss it out. To me, actually, I was the one that he's referring to there. Democrats did not give it to me. But she was willing to come forward, and so should have been allowed to do so at the beginning. And then there was some recklessness with Michael Avenatti coming forward with allegations of gang rape that completely sent the place into a circus atmosphere and undermined the credibility of the other allegation that was already out there. So I think that's legitimate, but I think that what Graham is doing here is trying to create a pretext for his eventual no vote, despite the fact that he voted for Brown Jackson recently to be on the circuit court. So he has to figure out a way that he can justify flipping from yes to a no, and I think this is going to be his justification. This wasn't fair to Brett Kavanaugh.
He doesn't have to justify. Like, this is. We all know the stakes here. Like, all the Republicans are going to vote again. Although she's going to get confirmed anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get Susan Collins or Lisa
Romney,
whoever wants some mainstream credibility, because they cannot stop this nomination and aren't going to. And it's replacing one liberal with another. So it's not. Right. The stakes are not. I mean, the stakes are high, but they're not. If there was any way they could stop her nomination, I'm sure they would. Right. But they can't. So there's really no point to try.
Right. And the other thing with stopping a nomination is that as long as there's still time before the next election, you can put somebody else in who's going to vote the same way.
Yeah.
So that lowers the stakes a little bit.
Absolutely.
And it continued to get heated today. So Senator Hawley doubled down in grilling Brown Jackson about her controversial child pornography rulings. Watch some of that.
You also told the defendant, you said this seems to be a case where you were fascinated by sexual images involving what were essentially your peers. And then you went on to say the defendant was merely trying to satisfy his curiosity. Curiosity is your word. One more thing on this, same idea. You said you were viewing, this is you to the defendant, you were viewing sex acts between children who were not much younger than you. And this whole discussion is about why you're only giving him 3 months. Judge, he was 18. These kids are 8. I don't see in what sense they're peers. I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 16-month-old at home. And I live in fear that they will be exposed to, let alone exploited, in this kind of material. I don't understand you saying to him that they're peers. Why isn't it rational to sentence people who have thousands of images on a computer to more time as opposed to somebody who has 1 or 2 pictures in the mail? In other words, the more images there are, why wouldn't you want to sentence that person to more time rather than less? Why isn't that rational?
Senator, I've answered this question, and I'll stand on what I already answered.
So, but your answer is what? I mean, refresh my memory.
Senator, I've answered this question. I've explained how the guidelines work, and I'll stand on my answer.
But
Yeah, and this question really consumed the whole day again. She's just faced repeated questioning from this that I think was in almost entirely bad faith. I've covered a lot of sex offender cases because there are a lot of civil liberties issues tied up in them. And, everyone imagines that the situation is, right, some creepy old pedophile preying on kids. And, those people are out there. Lock them up, absolutely. But actually, the sentencing requirements for people accused of this crime are well beyond any other, mobsters, serial killers can get released, not serial killers, people who commit violent crimes will get released before people caught with these images. And I think that's part of what she's saying in her response is that some of this the mandatory sentences don't make sense. And but then also I've covered so many cases where the age discrepancy isn't even that much. It's like 18 and 17. Right. But because of where the age of consent is drawn, sometimes I've seen cases of people charged for having pictures of themselves because they're 17 and they're technically minors. So even having a picture of yourself is considered, you're trafficking in child pornography. You're the child. I covered one case where this person was being sentenced as an adult for having pictures of themselves, a minor. So they were minor for the standpoint of the child pornography statute, but an adult from the standpoint of the sentencing. I've read that my colleague Lenore Skenazy, who does a lot of good reporting on this, that she said the most common age of a person on the sex offender registry is 14.
Right.
14.
Makes sense because they're swapping back pictures of each other.
Right. So, which is not
shouldn't do, but
which I absolutely don't want to, make it sound like this isn't an important issue. We should absolutely prosecute predators, people who are abusing young people. I'm not saying it's not an important issue, but there are reasons. There are many cases where leniency is appropriate. There's many cases where leniency is appropriate on all sorts of other sentences too, and they just kept hammering this.
Do you know where he came up with the 8-year-old thing?
I have no idea.
I don't.
And maybe that's the case, but Lenore Skenazy, again, my coworker, she wrote about a case where you had an older, I forget what age exactly this person was, but they were over the age of consent line, but they were mentally handicapped. They had a child's mind, and that's like a child's level sexual interest. Again, it's gross to talk about. Right. I'm not saying nothing should happen to that person. Probably that person does need therapy is what they really need. So there are cases like that too.
Right.
And there's no room for that sort of nuanced explanation of these issues on this.
Right. And we'll come back with more on this particular. We can look more into this particular case. But often what can happen if there is thousands of photos, there might be one person among all those photos that's an 8-year-old, but that's not at all central or significant part of. And
and maybe Holly's heard about this case. I have no idea. I haven't looked at particular. If somebody has thousands of images of a kid, of in a sexually compromised position. Maybe the sentence should be longer than what she arrived at. I don't know. Very well, she's...
And as you know, the way that prosecutors talk about this stuff, sometimes they'll say you have thousands of images, but what you actually have is a link to like some type of website or something that itself has thousands of images, which, not to justify having that link in your possession, but it makes people feel like you're sitting there with boxes and boxes of images when actually it's the internet. You had a link to the internet, and if you follow the right links, you get to these foul, disgusting, criminal things. But just hearing it makes you think, oh, well, they must have had all of those things just right personally in their possession. And so
there's a government entrapment element to some of these things too, because some police officers will meet, or they used to do this a lot. They'd meet people in chat rooms, and first they start out by saying an age that is okay. Then they arrange for some meeting, and at the very last meeting they say, I'm not 19, I'm 17. And then if the person shows up, they arrest them. Which again, a creepy person, maybe some punishment is appropriate, but no crime was about to be committed against any child except the one the government, and there was no child in any danger. The government engineered this. Which is similar to what they did to so-called Islamic terrorists. A little bit of what the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping trial is going on right now. It certainly edges up against that when you find out that all the people leading this conspiracy were like paid by the government to egg the other people on to do this kidnap. Like she was never in any danger. The FBI knew about the whole thing the whole time. Right, and sex offenders, that's where the state goes to erode civil liberties first, because nobody wants to say anything that could remotely be construed as defending the most hideous, disgusting thing like that. So they're like, this is a turkey shoot. We can just do whatever we want here because nobody's going to say anything. Yeah. So I'd say be careful before you join that parade. There's a lot of ways the policies actually make us less safe. With in terms of the residency requirements for people after they're done being incarcerated, these people all end up, people who've been on the sex offender registry or people who've been in jail, they all end up homeless. They can't get a job, and they're under circumstances where they're more likely to become some kind of future menace to society. So it's not well thought out. Take people who already have predilections in the wrong direction and produce material conditions that are going to drive. And then we have people sitting in tents everywhere. Yeah. All right, and in typical congressional fashion, the bickering wasn't just limited between senator and nominee, but senator and senators as well. Here's Ted Cruz.
I believe he recognized me. May I proceed?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I waited my turn on here, and I've been on this committee for 47 years. I think we ought to follow the regular order.
Mr. Chairman, the witness just said that we cannot understand those cases without the pre-sentence report.
I don't want to go through this again.
I have a letter that I want to enter into the record that's signed by 10 senators on this committee. Are you not even going to allow a letter from 10 senators on this committee? We can do what Judge Jackson just said, which is to assess those reports. And here is the letter. I ask unanimous consent to be admitted to the record.
I know the junior senator from Texas likes to get on television. But most of us have been here a long time trying to follow the rules.
We also learned that yesterday that Ted Cruz is a name searcher. Yes, I saw that. Here he is. He was on Fox last night. But they all were on the. Well, let's make this point, and then we'll read that. He right after his questioning, you saw him just. His head went straight into his phone. And then the people behind him were like, I can confirm. Saw he was searching his name. Not just in his mentions, but straight up doing the Ted Cruz search just to see how people were enjoying his questioning, rather than, and he was clearly paying zero attention to. So it makes his complaints about the process fall a little bit short. That's the problem with this whole thing. It's just a photo op. It's just. And how did people like my picture? That's all it is. That's all it is. Senator Leahy may have a point, as Senators Josh Hawley, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Ted Cruz earned spots on Hannity last night for their performances during the hearing. So yeah, exactly. It's performances. Their performances during. And there were performances on the other side. I don't know if you saw Cory Booker, the tears. I'm so inspired. It's ridiculous. Which I mean, it is inspiring. Finally, black woman on the Supreme Court. There's something to that. You gotta. We're still doing this first we are still XYZ category person to do something. Right, but this is a major category. Yeah. Black women, that's
We have
That's
some women.
not
We
like-
have black justices, but now we're combining them in one person.
There you go.
Well, exciting story.
But if it's a cover,
Stunning and brave.
yeah, anyway, we got to run.
All right. Tomorrow on Rising, we'll discuss Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman and Connor Lamb's run for Senate in Pennsylvania, and looks like it's about to get heated. Plus, is the D.C. political scene more like West Wing or Veep? We'll give you our thoughts on that tomorrow.
And Rachel Bovard is with us to discuss Trump's war chest for a potential 2024 run, and Stormy Daniels' refusal to pay Trump over $300,000, plus Max Alvarez and Daniel Boguslaw break down their recent reporting. You won't want to miss that.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts, so you can check us out there.
Stitcher, Google Play, Apple.
Is that where people listen to podcasts? I listened to some more podcasts this week than I usually do.
Spotify.
Spotify, that's my go-to, Spotify. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.